Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome to the Newcastle training ground, where today there was some access for our Sky Sports cameras as Newcastle build up for their next match, which of course is against Nottingham Forest on Sunday. So a full week to prepare for that game. Fresh from that terrific win against Arsenal, really impressive win against Arsenal on Saturday, backing up the cup victory against Chelsea, and look, a win against informed Forest on Sunday would top off what has been a brilliant 10 days on Tyneside for Newcastle, who I think have answered a few questions, and it looks as though things are sort of looking a little bit better behind the scenes in terms of results. And everyone's just feeling a little bit better after a patchy little segment of the season there, where results obviously weren't too good, and a few questions were beginning to be asked. But yeah, a lot of questions answered on Saturday, and a really solid display against Arsenal, and hopefully for Newcastle that's a platform to move on from. So yeah, I was up here at the training ground today. The Newcastle players actually warmed up for their session indoors. We get the first 15-20 minutes to record, and then Eddie Howe gets to his tactics, so we're not allowed to film any of that, sadly. But it was quite interesting this morning because although it was just a warm-up in the indoor pitch, the players went through something you might recognise or remember from school. Certainly it brought some memories back for me. Essentially the bleep test. Now, it wasn't the bleep test where they were running to the ground. They did need to have a fairly big rest at the end of it, where they essentially stood statuesque and didn't move, which I thought was unusual. Myself and my cameraman were turning around to each other wondering what was going on, so I don't know if that's part of the plan where they need to be static at the end of it. But it was essentially the bleep test. Dan Burn came out earlier and said it's not called that, it's called the yo-yo test, that's what they call it. But the players obviously just checking in on their fitness, making sure they were in the right sort of space to go into that training session afterwards. And I think it's just the fine details like that that really stand Eddie Howe in his training out from most head coaches or managers, the attention to detail that he puts in. I can just hear over my shoulder there at the pitch as the players going through their paces right now. It sounds very lively, a lot of raised voices, and look, I think every moment that Eddie Howe has in the training pitch with his players is a minute that is used to the team's advantage, and not a moment is wasted. And you could even just see that this morning just by the little warm-up that they did. You know, there wasn't much chatter between the players. It was down to work, because they know that's where the rewards on a Saturday come from if they put it in at training during the week. So I think Eddie will be pleased that he's got a full week with the players. That was a really tough week last week. 3 matches in the space of under 6 days, with the early kick-off on Saturday. It took a real lot out of the players in terms of the load, and I think that's why, well, Eddie Howe's pretty much said why the likes of Sandro Tonali was brought back out of the team on Sunday. I think Saturday should have said, I think he just felt it was too much for a player who'd missed 10 months of football to have gone again on Saturday. And if you look at all his midfielders, they all sat out one of the 3 matches. The only one that played every game was Joe Linton, and I think he said afterwards that the reason he played Joe Linton every game is because of what he gives in set pieces, and how much of a physical presence he is. So yeah, Tonali, Bruno, Longstaff all sat out a game each last week, and he managed to rotate his way through the week and come out of it in a positive manner. So yeah, look, I think Eddie answered a lot of questions, because I think there probably were a few questions when the team was named on Saturday morning, and I think if had it gone wrong, you know, more questions would have been asked. But I think Eddie has just proved that he kind of probably knows better than us, probably knows better than the fans, and the team he picked was the right team to win that match on Saturday against Arsenal, and win it in style as well. So yeah, just good to just get a little catch up today, see what was going on, watch a little bit of the training session, and report back to you guys. In terms of the injuries, you will want to know, of course, no sign of either Sven Botman or Jamal Lascelles, both on their individual Comebacks, I think Sven Botman had been given the impression that he was close on his social media, but Eddie Howe said at a press conference last week that he's not as close as we would think, and it'll probably be nearer Christmas by the time he returns. I think Jamal Lascelles is on a similar sort of course, maybe even slightly further behind Botman. But look, it would be a real boost to get one or both of those guys back, because it's still very light in the centre of defence with Byrne, Kelly and Fabian Schär basically sharing the load between them in there, and Schär essentially having to play every game because he's the only right-sided centre-back. Now obviously once Jamal Lascelles comes back, that gives them an option there, and then Botman makes it really strong left-sided centre-back with Botman, Byrne and Kelly to choose from, should the other two that have been playing, Kelly and Byrne, stay fit. Other injuries, no sign of Callum Wilson today, so it'll be interesting to hear what Eddie Howe has to say on Friday as to whether he's set to come back against Forest. You would suggest he might just give it that one more game to try and ensure that when he does come back, he's got that international week behind him and another week or so behind him, and hopefully he's in a stronger position to make that long-awaited comeback. But yeah, no sign of Callum Wilson today. And no sign of Kieran Trippier either, who of course has had that hamstring injury. He's been over in Dubai with his own fitness guy there, but was back obviously on Tyneside on Saturday and at the game. I never saw him training with the group today, but I would imagine he was probably inside doing his own thing. On top of that, Matt Targett was there. We've not seen him for a while. He was there in the warm-up and taking part in the session, so we'll try and get an update from Eddie Howe on that on Friday. But again, it'd be something really difficult for someone like Matt Targett to get back into the team, given the form of Lewis Hall right now, and the fact of course Dan Byrne can play in that position, and Lloyd Kelly as well. So they seem fairly stacked on that left hand side. But yeah, so as I say, full session going on behind me just as I drove out of the training ground next door. I can see Eddie putting on a couple of drills, striking drills, shooting drills for the likes of Isak and Joe Linton and Anthony Gordon, so that's obviously what they were doing this morning. After I'm calling it the bleep test, that looked like the bleep test to me. I would have been on my knees after that watching them, but yeah, the yo-yo test for them. So imagine doing the bleep test as your warm-up, but there you go. Anyway guys, thought I'd just check in, provide a little bit of my video from this morning, and I'll be back later on in the week with some news off the back of the press conferences. Newcastle look to travel down to Nottingham Forest for what will be probably as tough a game as they've faced since last weekend. Forest away, on paper right now, probably just as difficult as either Arsenal or Chelsea at home. Okay guys, leave your comments below. See you on the next one. Take care.